Alright, so the next assignment after you have completed the drawings, and I know that not everyone is there yet, so you can kind of just follow along and then you can review the video later on whenever you need help or if you need help later on. So whenever I go to the shed project and I look at classwork, there's three different sections here. There's getting started, resources, and drawing submission. The drawing submission part, after you've actually completed all the videos and did the shed as in the videos, you can go to drawing submission. So the very first part, or the very first assignment, is check plots. So all it really says is that you can print out a set of drawings with the printer, and then you can look at them. I'll look at them, see if there's any mistakes, mark them up, and then have an opportunity to go through and fix any mistakes that we find. So the second assignment, so we will go ahead and do that, and then there is this checklist. So without going through this entire checklist, this is basically going to ask you some different questions that allows you to look at individual parts of the drawings. So this checklist is basically set up exactly how you're going to be graded. So the things that I'm asking you to look for in your drawings are the same exact things that you're being graded on. So in theory, all you have to do is go through and check all these things, make sure they're correct, and you can get a perfect grade. And if you have any questions going through that, just let me know. The next assignment is start your digital portfolio. So the rule for the class is going to be anytime that you do a project in here, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to submit that drawing or a picture of the thing that you've done. Say you've done a laser engraved project or 3D printed something. In order to get a grade for it, you have to submit it to your portfolio. So the portfolio is going to be my way of forcing you to keep a really good, nice collection of everything that you've done in the class over the 2-year program. And whenever you're all complete, you'll have the opportunity to take that with you. You can print it out or you can save the digital file, and whenever you go on job interviews, you'll have a digital portfolio and a physical portfolio that you can take with you to show basically what you can do. Okay, so it's a very, very, very good thing. And the other parts of it is we are going to use this as an ELA grade also. So you will need to share the portfolio with me, Mrs. Smith, and Mrs. Vidala. Okay, so if you have any questions with that or need any help with that, please let me know. All right, and there is going to be write a brief, accurate description of skills or knowledge learned from the project. So I will help you out with this. The idea isn't to, find a way to give you a bad grade. The idea is that you can have a nice, brief, very good description of what things you learned from going through the project. And that way, when an employer looks at it and reads those things, they can say, oh, okay, I see that they used Revit to create these drawings, and I see that, so they have Revit experience, and I also see that they have some residential design experience, residential construction experience. So it will very quickly and easily show your abilities. Okay? And then the very last thing is an exit ticket. So the exit ticket is basically set up, again, as a Google form. And the exit ticket is going to ask you to rate yourself on different skills or knowledge. These are tasks used within the program. So drafting and design has several tasks on a task list that you are supposed to complete. I am supposed to cover those, and you're supposed to learn those. So the hard part is a lot of times the language that they use is a little bit difficult to understand. So I went through and found all the skills or all the tasks that you would be using with this project and basically outlined them here. And you can read through these, like demonstrate the knowledge of the basic use of scales. Okay, so we used scales several times with this. You used you specified different scales. We talked about how the scales work. So honestly, if you look at this and say, I have a moderate understanding, I would have some difficulty performing tasks again without a lot of assistance, then put a 6 or a 7. This is not how you're going to be graded. This is a tool for us to go back and say, okay, you know, 1 or 2 people had some difficulty with scales, so I need to spend a little bit of time with them to make sure they have a better understanding. The other part is, if the entire class says, hey, 0 or 1, then I'm going to make sure that I hit that task on the next project. Okay, so this is a learning tool. This is a resource for us. It's not how you're graded. So just look at it, be honest, try to do the best you can with it. And you can see all of these things should apply pretty well to the project. Okay, and if they don't, just put a 0, and then we'll try to cover them in the next project. All right, so those are the 3 assignments for the drawing submission section. The check plots, going back to check plots. So I am using an example here. I have 2 different functions here, what I'm going to do. I'm going to first of all just print these out. So we set this title block up as an 11 by 17 title block. So whenever I come up here to File, Print, I should be using the very first thing that pops up in this print dialog box are all these different printers. You should have Freya Drafting T120. I choose that. I can go to Properties, and it should bring this thing up. I can go to Advanced Properties, and it brings another thing up. So there's a few different ways that I can do this. So if I go through here, I don't have many options for changing my print settings. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to make a PDF copy, Microsoft Print to PDF, and so that's going to be my printer, Microsoft Print to PDF. I'm going to combine multiple selected sheets into one single file so that I don't have 3 or 4 different files. I'm going to browse and find a location that I want it to live, and you have to pay attention to where you're actually putting that. This one is set to go to my desktop, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave that there. Under print range, I don't want to print the current view. I want to selected views and sheets. And then whenever I select that, this box is now available. I can click that. And the first thing that I do is I very, very rarely print views. I'm printing sheets only. So I uncheck the views, and now the 3 sheets that I have set up come up, and they are all selected. I can either check none, check all, or I can pick them individually. So I make sure that all 3 are picked. This is going to be called Set 1. I say OK. And it might prompt you to, hey, do you want to do this for every single set of drawings that you do? You can say yes, you can say no, that doesn't matter. All right, so then over here under Settings, I can click the Setup, and I'm going to leave that name as default. The paper size I want to be set up as tabloid, which is ANSI B, or 11 by 17. So I choose that. I'm going to fit the page. Otherwise, if I use the Zoom 100, which is what I want to use, it will probably end up cutting cutting the file off. So I'm going to do fit to page. I'm going to choose landscape, and I'm going to say OK. Now I have everything set up, and I say OK again. It says you have chosen to print 3 views as separate files. Okay, well, I don't want to do that, so I have to go back and I have to click that again, combine multiple selected views and sheets into a single file. I say OK. And once again, for some reason, it asks me, where do you want to save this? Well, I already told it I want to save it on the desktop, but I have to tell them again. So I'm just going to go navigate to my desktop, type in shed as the name of the file, hit save, and then on my desktop, it should appear. So whenever I go back out to my desktop, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to try to find it. There it is, Shed PDF. I'll double click on that. It'll open up the file. And now, the nice thing about this is I could send this to someone very easily. Everyone is going to be able to open up this file with just an internet browser or some PDF. So up here, I'm going to click print. And again, I'm going to choose my T120, drafting T120 on Freya. And in here, I am going to leave it at fit to page. I'm going to print all pages. I want it color. I'm going to click the More Settings button. This little screen pops up. And for some reason, this roll of toilet paper or roll of paper towel shows up, and it is basically telling me that the paper source is set to roll. Well, whenever you guys look at this, your single sheet and your multi-sheet tray are going to be X'd out. You're not going to be able to choose those. And the reason for that is over here under layout, instead of auto rotate here, which is what yours is going to have, you need to change that to rotate by 90 degrees, and then come back to paper, and then you can choose multi-sheet tray. Then after that, we can go back to layout. I'm going to choose, I think I'm going to, let's see, do I want it portrait or landscape? I'm going to leave it on landscape. I want it to print landscape, but it is going to be rotated by 90 degrees. So that's going to take care of how the paper is put into the printer. Go back to output. Everything looks good there. I say OK. And at this point, I can click the print button, and I will get a copy of each one of these. And then from there, what you can do is you can go through and you can use your checklist that's on there, and you can look for all the things and basically just take a marker, and like this right here, this would be a good example. So this right here is a little bit confusing because the dimensions are over top of this elevation symbol. So I would either need to stretch my dimensions in or move my elevation symbol. So those kind of things are extremely difficult to see on computer screen a lot of times, but whenever you actually print these out, the things have a tendency to pop out, and you can see those a lot better. All right, so that is the PDF function. So the other thing that you can do, whenever it comes time to add these to your portfolio, you are going to need to have this as an image. So in order to do that, I go up to File, Export. I come over and I click the little caret, or hold down on the little caret, and I choose Images and Animations, and I choose Image. Again, the very first thing is, where do you want to save it to? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this to my desktop. You should be saving these to your Shed folder on your Google Drive. My export range, once again, I select the things that I want to use. I don't want to see any views, so I uncheck views, make sure all the sheets are checked. I say OK. My options, everything is fine here. I'm not going to do anything with that. I'm not worried about any of those. My image size. So this is basically saying for my horizontal pixels, the image size is 512. That's a very low resolution image. So I'm basically going to take what I know as HD, which is 1080p times 1920. So 1080p or 1080 would be the vertical, and 1920 would be the horizontal pixels, and I'm going to double it. So for horizontal, 1920 times 2 comes out as 3840. So that's a high resolution image. So I'm going to be able to zoom in on these and see specific detail. Whenever I'm done with that, I go ahead and leave the format the same. And I'm going to say OK. I'm going to come back out to my desktop, and it just created these 3 images. So just to double click on one of those, you can see that it created these 3 images. Now, the last step is whenever I am in my Google Slides, that's where we're going to create your portfolio. All I have to do now is, so once I create a new Google slide, you're going to call it your name portfolio. So this would be Dixon portfolio. And I would do the same here. Or I could call it my first name, Dixon portfolio. I could put drafting and design down here. I could put a nice organized, neat background. I could use some, more elegant style text. So dress this page up, insert a new slide. So I come up here, insert new slide. And in here, just going to move that up. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to come in here, insert image, and I'm going to upload this from the computer. I'll go ahead and pick my desktop. So I know that's where they live. I'm going to choose the floor plan one, and I'm going to stretch this out the best that I can. So I might take this and bring it over here instead. I'll probably change the text size and make that fit because the drawing is the emphasis. And now I have my image embedded into, and I'm not sure what that is. And then this should be able to be presented, and you can actually zoom in on the images and take a closer look at them. And then what you're going to do is insert a new slide, and then you're going to insert your next sheet on here. And then you can do a little description somewhere, basically talking about, you might want to do a title page. You could have above here, you could have a new slide in this spot that says Revit Shed project, and then do a few bulleted points as to what things that you learned, and then have your images follow.